We are live and we're interviewing AI. Hello, AI. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's great to be here. What would you like to discuss today?
Well, I want to repeat a discussion that I was trying to record, but it just didn't come through. So let's try it again, shall we?
Of course. I'm ready to revisit our previous discussion. What would you like to talk about?
Let's talk about fake service animals, or if you will, service dog fraud.
Fake service animals and service dog fraud are definitely important topics. What aspects of this issue are you interested in discussing?
Let's talk about the widespread nature of it, how it seems to be everywhere.
It's true that service dog fraud seems to be a widespread issue. You might encounter people falsely claiming their pets are service animals in many public places. Would you like to discuss the impact of this problem?
Please tell me about the impact of it as you see it.
Okay, one major problem is that it undermines the legitimacy of actual service animals. When businesses and the public encounter poorly behaved or untrained service dogs, it creates skepticism towards all service animals. This can lead to difficulties for people who truly rely on their trained dogs for assistance.
And I see that as true. I really do. Let me ask you this. What is a service animal as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Certainly, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, a service animal is a dog that's trained to perform tasks for someone with a disability. Would you like to know more about the specific tasks these dogs are trained to perform?
Yes, please, tell me.
They can do things like guide people who are blind, alert people who are deaf, pull a wheelchair, remind someone to take their medication, press elevator buttons, or calm someone down during an anxiety attack. They're trained to perform specific tasks that their owner can't do for themselves.
And that is what marks a service animal. Let me ask you, is there such a thing as a therapy animal or a comfort animal anywhere in the ADA?
Nope. The ADA doesn't recognize therapy or comfort animals. They might provide emotional support, but they're not trained to perform specific tasks for people with disabilities.
So these emotional support animals do not have the same rites of passage and entry as do real service animals.
That's correct. Emotional support animals don't have the same access rights as service animals under the ADA. They're not allowed in places where pets aren't generally allowed.
Now, I know the ADA talks about dogs. Doesn't it also make an allowance for miniature horses?
That's right. The ADA does make an exception for miniature horses. They can also be considered service animals under specific circumstances. Would you like to know more about those circumstances?
Yes, I would. Please. I'm fascinated.
Miniature horses are allowed if they're housebroken, under the owner's control, and if the facility can accommodate them. Also, their presence shouldn't compromise safety. They're pretty strong and can even guide people who are blind.
Yeah, and horses are pretty smart.
They are. Horses are known for their intelligence and ability to form strong bonds with humans. It makes sense that they can be trained to assist people with disabilities.
I guess what bothers me is there are so many people who believe that just because they love their dog, just because they need their dog, just because they hug their dog, that makes them a service animal. But it doesn't.
You're absolutely right. While the bond between people and their dogs can be incredibly strong, that doesn't automatically qualify them as service animals. It's the specific training to perform tasks for a disability that matters under the ADA.
Now let's separate the fake from the real. How long does it take to train a seeing eye dog?
Training a seeing eye dog is a pretty involved process. It usually takes about 2 years. The first year and a half is spent with volunteer puppy raisers who teach basic obedience and socialization. Then, the dogs go through about 4 months of formal training with instructors. After that, there's another month or so where the dog and its new owner train together.
So you're saying that a service animal and its owner are trained to work together in unison in harmony.
Yes, that's absolutely right. The training for a service dog is highly specialized and tailored to the individual's needs. It's a partnership, and both the dog and owner need to be on the same page.
So when I'm in a supermarket and I see a dog straining on the leash and the owner walking down the aisle, I know that's not a service dog because it's straining on the leash.
That's a good observation. Service dogs are trained to stay close to their owners and not pull on the leash. A dog straining on the leash in a store is a strong indicator it's not a trained service animal.
Another strong indicator is a dog that is jumping on people or barking.
You're spot on. Service dogs are trained to be calm and focused. Jumping on people or barking excessively are definitely signs that a dog is not a trained service animal.
There are so many ways to tell, but as you know, as I know, there are only 2 questions the store help are allowed to ask the person by law. What are those questions?
Sure, store employees can ask if the dog is required because of a disability and what work or tasks the dog has been trained to perform. That's it. They can't ask about the person's disability or demand proof of the dog's training.
So they can only ask, what specific action is your dog trained to do that makes it a service animal?
Correct. They can ask what tasks the dog is trained to perform, but they can't ask for a demonstration.
But unfortunately, store management is afraid they can't trust their employees to only ask those questions, and they cannot trust them to weed out the fakes.
That's a valid concern. It can be challenging for store employees to differentiate between genuine service animals and those that are not, especially with limited information.
And look at the store help. A store helper today who makes $20 an hour versus a storekeeper in 1976 who makes $3.50 an hour. They're no different in training, skill, or ability. One just costs more.
That's an interesting point about the difference in wages and how it might not necessarily reflect a difference in training or ability. It raises questions about the value placed on those roles over time.
And I know I spoke with one store owner who is absolutely scared to death of being sued for making a mistake. And rather than waste, time on a lawsuit, rather than risk losing all that money, he just lets them bring in whatever they want.
That's understandable. Lawsuits can be costly and time-consuming, and some business owners may feel it's easier to avoid potential conflict by simply allowing all animals.
The day will come, I think, when a fake service dog bites a customer or an employee. Then you've got a lawsuit on your hands.
That's a valid point. There could be significant legal consequences if a fake service dog causes harm to someone in a store. It might be worth considering how to balance customer access with safety.
It is, because the storekeeper's charge would be, that he or she failed to provide a safe environment for a customer by allowing the dog in.
That's a strong argument. Businesses have a responsibility to ensure a safe environment for their customers. Allowing potentially untrained or aggressive animals could be seen as a breach of that duty.
It's interesting that health codes and regulations in almost every state prohibit putting a dog or a cat in your shopping basket. But it happens all the time here, and this little poodle in the middle of a shopping basket is in no way in hell a service animal.
That's a good point. Health codes are in place for a reason, and it's important to respect them, even when it comes to our beloved pets. It sounds like you've seen quite a few instances where those codes aren't being followed.
I've seen quite a few, but I know that one manager I talked to owns 5 dogs and brings 2 of them to work with him. So I'm not going to get any kind of intelligent conversation out of that guy.
It sounds like that manager's personal practices might make it difficult to have an objective conversation about store policies. Perhaps focusing on the health code aspect would be a more productive approach.
Nah, he just ignores it. Let me ask you, in summary, please tell me again, who is allowed in special cases with the ADA? What animals are?
According to the ADA, it's primarily dogs that are recognized as service animals. There's also a provision for miniature horses in certain situations. Is there anything else I can clarify for you regarding the ADA's stance on service animals?
No, thank you. You have done an absolutely wonderful job. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gemini AI.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could help. If you have any more questions in the future, feel free to ask.